There's good news for citizens of Uganda. Your country has been declared Ebola-free. Unfortunately, across the border in the Democratic Republic of Congo, Ebola is still spreading like wildfire and increasingly claiming more lives. And the reality is, the damage is being measured not only in lives lost, but in livelihoods. It's closing markets and leaving families without an income.
The situation of Ebola in 3 months now is not good. We are nearly 2,000 people have died. We have 4,000 people affected. So beside the numbers, we ask ourselves, where are they dying? And 60 to 70% are dying at home. Very important. We don't have a licensed vaccine, neither therapeutics, and other factors which you know. Insecurity, places where we cannot reach, we are only seeing 30%, where the 70% people dying at home. This is why this Ebola is different.
So what is the economic cost of the Ebola outbreak in the DRC?
Niko nakuwaka na kazi, minaranguraka kuhisamaki customer. Sasa kurangura, tunapitaka mushida.
I buy fish in bulk from Uganda, but recently it has become extremely difficult because the border is closed due to Ebola. Transporting our goods is now a nightmare as we can't cross without paying multiple fees. We are constantly harassed just to move our merchandise. Sometimes we wait for days for our goods to arrive, and even when they finally do, selling them is tough because of the poor economy. Many of us are going hungry. We can no longer eat like before. This situation is causing us real hardship.
That's what's coming up.
Africa Link, every weekday here on DW.
I am Eddie Micah Jr., and you are welcome to Africa Link, the podcast connecting you to the stories that matter. The World Health Organization says the Ebola outbreak in the DRC is now the country's largest Ebola outbreak on record. It's been 3 months since the WHO declared it a public health emergency of international concern.
From the Democratic Republic of the Congo, our colleagues at the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs tell us that children and women continue to bear a disproportionate share of the Ebola outbreak in the eastern province of Ituri. The outbreak is unfolding in a province where nearly 1 million people are displaced, around 80% of them women and children. According to the UN Children's Fund, more than 300 children have died from Ebola since the outbreak began. Children make up nearly a quarter of confirmed cases, but almost a third of all deaths. As we mentioned earlier this week, the outbreak is also severely disrupting essential health care. In the hardest hit areas, use of health services has dropped by more than 40% in recent months, as fear of infection keeps people away. The UN Population Fund warns that this fear, combined with overstretched health services, is preventing many pregnant women from seeking care. Maternal deaths in Ituri have nearly doubled since the outbreak began, with about 6 women dying each week from childbirth-related complications. Ebola infection during pregnancy remains associated with almost universal fetal loss. OCHA stresses that restoring community confidence is key. Together with the Ministry of Public Health, the World Health Organization, and the Africa CDC, UNICEF and partners have deployed 13,000 community workers, reaching more than 2.4 million people with information on Ebola prevention and early detection. They've also carried out over 500,000 household visits to counter misinformation and encourage early care seeking. Meanwhile, WHO reports that its Technical Advisory Group on Vaccine Research is recommending a clinical trial in the DRC for the Ervebo vaccine, the only licensed vaccine against Ebola. WHO is working with partners to begin the trial as soon as possible. This comes as the virus continues to spread rapidly across eastern DRC, with total cases now surpassing 4,000 and 1,850 deaths recorded.
Now, beyond the death toll is an economic cost. According to the World Food Programme, border closures, movement restrictions, and trade disruptions linked to Ebola are driving up food and fuel prices. For more on this, let's bring in Diomersi Mungwa-Konkwa, an economic analyst, and DW's Zanem Zaidi, reporting on the ground. Welcome to Africa Link. Zanem, how has the Ebola outbreak affected people's finances?
Yeah, thank you. For many families, the impact is indirect but significant. Fear of the disease reduces travel and limits certain economic activities. Small business owners, market vendors, transport operators, and daily wage workers often see their incomes decline because fewer customers are moving around and some activities slow down. To illustrate this, in Goma, for example, a city located on the border with Rwanda, when the border was closed, many small traders could no longer cross into Rwanda to purchase goods and supplies. As a result, their businesses were severely affected. Some even had to suspend their activities altogether.
Right. So it's clearly affecting individual lives. How are people coping with all of this? Because I can understand if people were working and trading and, doing business across borders. And as we know, Uganda, Rwanda, they shut their borders to the DRC to prevent the spread of Ebola.
Yes, many people say that Ebola has created a sense of uncertainty, given the rapid spread of the disease in the region. Many are worried about the future and believe that the situation could become even worse in the coming days. Despite these fears, some people continue their daily activities, but with greater caution. Others say they are afraid to visit certain public places or to travel. When incomes decline, the first impact is often on food consumption. Families may reduce the quality of food they eat or limit the variety of foods in their meals. It's also important to point out that beyond the impact of people's ability to work or do business, Ebola has affected social life as well. In Africa, it is common for people to visit relatives and maintain close family ties. But this has changed significantly. Many people now avoid visiting family members or close friends because of fears related to the outbreak. Students are currently on vacation, and this is usually a time when children travel to stay with relatives such as aunts, uncles, or grandparents. However, because of the Ebola situation, many parents are no longer allowing their children to travel for the holidays. Instead, they prefer to keep them at home to reduce the risk of exposure to the disease. This shows that the outbreak has affected many aspects of daily life, not only economic activities, but also family relationships and social interactions.
This is the silent aspect of all of this. And not only is it important to address the number of lives being lost, but the silent aspect of it, people losing jobs, the communities being affected. And so I'm very glad that you're highlighting all of this. What is the government doing to ease the economic burden or pressure on people? Has the government said anything about financially supporting those that are facing economic challenges?
Yeah, until now there is no support from the government, but I don't know what will be happening in few days. But until now there is no support from the government.
Right. Thank you very much, Zanem. Which exactly is the challenge, isn't it, the MSC? Because there's a lot of money being received by the DRC government, mainly to tackle and contain the spread of Ebola, which is great, right? But on the other side, the economic challenges, there's not really any money being allocated to it. How do you estimate the economic cost of the Ebola outbreak to the DRC?
You know, the government of the DRC used to find money for helping to attack, to fight that epidemic, which is Ebola. And is not Ebola what people know. Is Ebola of strain Bundubudio, is what they call it. That people, when they find that money, here, us who are in these areas where people are suffering from Ebola, we don't see helps coming from the government. Sometimes we just see they come with cars and maybe some cloths of nurse. So they say that they are looking for money to fight against that epidemic. And then, since this epidemic of Ebola was seen here in North Kivu province and in Ituri, many people who were working, they stopped. When they stopped, they were in a difficulty of doing jobs which they used to do, because since they said that there is Ebola in these areas, some of persons who used to cross the border, like at Kasini, there is a border which shares DRC and Uganda. They stopped the border. There is no movement. There is no people who can come to this side or who can go to that side. And then, people from this region, many of them, they live with agriculture and small trade.
Are you concerned that these measures to prevent the spread of Ebola is going to draw some people back into poverty of some sort? Is this how serious it is?
Yes, some people stays in poverty because when they tell them to respect those measures, yes, we accept is just for preventing that propagation of that disease. But when they are not working, some of them, the way I told you, they used to cross the border to go to look for life out the country. Others, they are living on others they live with agriculture. So when some of them they have that disease and there is a fear, and others they don't say that they will refuse that measures because it's a measure which is taken by authorities, and if you refuse, you will find sanctions. And then because of that, you see some of them they live without even finding how to live, finding what to eat, because someone who used to sell something with few money, and when the transport is they put it on a big price, he will be not able to go and to take that things he used to sell, and you will see it's the family which will stay in the poverty. That is, and then that disease is not easy. The way is killing people every day in this region, and then some of people they stay home. That disease which can put them or can push them to go and contaminate others at the house. So
it's totally understandable what you're saying in terms of course, the fear is playing a role here. Plus, of course, these are measures put up by the authorities, so people cannot go against it, or you be fined, which is then clearly, as you're saying, affecting lives. And coming back to you, Zanem, we talk about a lot of these rural areas where there's a lot of farming and trading of all sorts. How are farmers and traders adjusting when movement restrictions or fear are clearly limiting their ability to plant, harvest, or sell? That must be really hitting people hard, isn't it?
Yeah, farmers generally try to maintain their activities because their livelihood depend on their harvests. About traders, on the other hand, are doing their best to continue exporting and importing goods despite the challenges created by the outbreak and border restrictions. In areas along the border with Uganda, where the Uganda DRC border remains closed, traders have organized themselves into associations. Each association brings together dozens of traders and is led by a representative. This representative purchases goods in bulk on behalf of the members and is allowed to cross with the goods, which is then distributed among the individual traders. This arrangement was put in place to enable traders to continue their businesses even when they are unable to cross the border themselves. While many traders acknowledge that the system has its limitations, they say it is currently the best available solution and helps them keep their activities running.
Right, which is a beautiful story you just told, because what you're saying is, through all those challenges, and indeed there are many challenges, that communities are trying to help each other to cushion the impact of the challenge, right? And that seems to be working to some extent, isn't it? How effective is that? And what more do they need to make sure that it works even better?
Yes, I can say that is effective because with this system, many traders can continue to do their activities. Meanwhile, they cannot travel. Yeah, they can continue to sell their goods with this arrangement that was put in place.
Right. As you say, yeah, they are trying to find their own way around it. But what more do they need from the government in such difficult times to survive?
Yeah, the government must take some measures to see how to reduce the impact, the economic impact of Ebola in this region, and to see how to supply some traders who need help, because to work in this situation isn't easy at all. Then the government must see how to reduce all these problems that came after the Ebola in this region.
Right. Dear Mercy, let's talk about practical things that should be done. We know the government has to do something. What exactly do we expect from the government at this stage? How should the government think about the balance between containing measures to prevent the disease from spreading, plus also thinking about protecting livelihoods in the affected regions? What exactly should the government do now?
The government should look for money and give to those people who are sacrificing themselves because of fighting this disease. You know, sometimes we used to understand that the government finded money from Europe, from somewhere, just for fighting this epidemic. We have seen them come. Last time they gave cars don't suffice. The government has to look for money which will support those people who are fighting that disease. The government, we know that it's doing something, but it doesn't suffice. People have to know this epidemic is very dangerous, and then the government have to look how.
I think the point is very clear. The government should do more, definitely, not just to save lives and protect lives, but also to cushion the economic impact that people are feeling or facing throughout this epidemic. So many thanks for all those contributions, and we will definitely keep tabs on what's happening on the ground in the DRC as the disease keeps spreading and containment remains an issue. Many thanks to you, DRC Ebola, legal expert and economic analyst, and DW's Zanem Neti Zaidi. Also, thank you very much.
You are welcome.
Thank you too. And understand, my English was no good, but understand. Thank you.
And I don't blame you at all. Don't worry. For now, there is neither a vaccine nor a treatment for the Bundibugyo variant that is currently circulating, but clinical trials have begun. How long can people deal with the impact of the outbreak is the question.
Getting fish has become harder and harder. We have to pay at several checkpoints just to obtain our goods. Now we have no money left, our hands are empty, and life has become extremely difficult. Almost all our money goes to transport and import fees. Personally, I pay about 20,000 Congolese francs just to bring the merchandise here. By the time the goods arrive, we are left with nothing. Our entire capital is gone. We urge the authorities to step in and reopen the border. We cannot take this suffering any longer.
Traders in Kasindi are facing an extremely difficult time with many challenges. Crossing the border has become nearly impossible since Uganda closed its side, even though the Democratic Republic of Congo did not. Because of this, it is now very hard to find goods. This is on top of the ongoing war in North Kivu. Many people displaced by conflict had turned to trade for survival, but now even this option is threatened. To help, our small cross-border traders organization is working actively. Our advocacy has allowed some representative traders to cross and buy goods for others who cannot. Still, some people are forced to use illegal routes across the lake.
Niko nakuwaka na kazi, minaranguraka kuhisamaki customer.
I buy fish in bulk from Uganda, but recently it has become extremely difficult because the border is closed due to Ebola. Transporting our goods is now a nightmare as we can't cross without paying multiple fees. We are constantly harassed just to move our merchandise. Sometimes we wait for days for our goods to arrive, and even when they finally do, selling them is tough because of the poor economy. Many of us are going hungry. We can no longer eat like before. This situation is causing us real hardship.
The UN Development Programme warns the current Ebola outbreak could push nearly 1 million more people into poverty, threaten more than 300,000 jobs across Africa, and cost the continent up to $3.6 billion if it spreads further. The DRC alone could lose more than $1 billion in economic output and around 55,000 jobs. Border restrictions, transport delays, and slower cross-border trade are already hurting small businesses and informal traders, cutting household incomes and disrupting local markets long before the virus reaches many communities. But still, let's keep hope alive, shall we? Share your thoughts on Facebook and TikTok at DW Africa. Listen to us on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And subscribe to our DW Africa YouTube channel so you never miss an episode. This show was co-produced and edited by Isaac Mugabe. And I am Eddie Micah Jr. Thanks for listening.
DW. Made for minds.